So if you've played Tears of the Kingdom, you'd know that you use stamina a lot. It's a core part of the game. You need it to run, swim, climb, charge attack, use the paraglider to push things, to pull out the Master Sword. You get it. Stamina does a lot. So would it actually be possible to beat the game without stamina? On my very first playthrough, that was the question I wanted to answer. I mean, how hard could it really be? The only rule for this run is if the stamina bar shows up at all, it would indicate that I've used stamina and I would reload to a previous save. Alright, let's begin the video. Oh, and if you do enjoy, I would really appreciate if you subscribe. So I boot up the game and I walk through the ruins. Eventually I reach the bats that I kill and then I sit through a few cutscenes. After Link awakens, I cut my way through to this thing. Now we walk through a corridor and come across our first problem, a small body of water. It seemed too far to jump, but I tried anyway and failed. But with that attempt in the mud, I tried looking around the area to see if there was any easy way to get across the water. Fortunately, on the left side, there was a small area Link could stand on. So after reloading my save, I moved Link along this wall and then I lined up for a jump. With a jump attack for a little extra distance, I make the first jump, and with another jump attack, I managed to cross the water. The next area looked a little intimidating, but surprisingly Link can climb the area with a jump attack. Luckily this jump is pretty easy, and now I just drop down. After accidentally killing myself, I survey the area to find these roots that serve as a safe way down. I now progress towards this chest and then jump down. Because I can't land in the water or I will be unable to move, I must land on this lily pad to avoid fall damage. Unfortunately I fail on my first try, but on my next try I stick the landing and jump off to arrive on the first island. I now tear my way through a construct, collect the Pura pad, and terrorize this defenseless NPC. My next problem was this jump, but after carefully considering my options, I found the best place to land and I successfully executed the landing. With 2 well-timed jumps, I arrive on the next island. After slowly making my way towards the Temple of Time, I realize I'm in some trouble. I couldn't cross this water, and I needed to cross it to reach the Temple of Time. Every jump I tried was nowhere near far enough for me to reach the other side. With no options left, I decide to wander around. I mean, maybe I'll find something that can help. I found a bow and it gave me hope of finding a shield so I could try to shield jump across, but you can't actually find one until climbing the Temple of Time, so that wasn't going to help. After about half an hour of me desperately searching for any way to progress, the only lead I could find was this chest, but I couldn't reach the chest, or could I? By picking up a rock on the other side of the island and moving it to this point right here, I could stand on it, and with a well-timed jump attack, I could scale this platform and collect the chest. It contained 3 wings. At the time, I didn't know what they did, so after acquainting myself with this mechanic, I had an idea of how I could cross the water. My plan was to drop a wing down and use it as a bridge to cross. Unfortunately, the game doesn't make this easy, as there's some restrictions on where the game lets you place these. To slightly remedy this, I used 2 wings, one to knock the other into the water, but after making the jump and a short easy climb, I found a jump that I would probably want 2 wings for. So I've reloaded and I made it across the water with just a single wing. Unfortunately, the next problem was going to be even harder than the previous one. Here, they really want you to climb, but we can't. My first attempt was to try to jump up to the top, but I wasn't even close. I then tried to backflip up this wall to no avail. So now I had to use the wings that I was trying to conserve since they're limited. Again, positioning them is pretty tight, as the game is pretty strict on where they want you to position them. Fortunately, I saved in just the right spot, so when I reload I can quite easily position them so that they tilt in a way that serves as a platform to allow me to jump up to this area. From here, I need to quickly jump again to reach here, and I thought from this area it would be easy. Unfortunately not. If I try to go through here, Link will climb, and I will have to reload my save. I also tried to bait out this construct with a shield, as I thought that if I could obtain the shield, I might be able to jump up to the top. I eventually gave up on this as it seemed inconsistent. Fortunately, I had thought of another plan. You see this small ledge below the bridge? Link can stand on this, and I was confident Link could move along it, and after another try, my plan was successful. I managed to successfully make this jump, and then Link climbed around and made it up to this ledge. I then tried to enter the Temple of Time, but I got redirected to the shrine. So after jumping across this lily pad, I arrive at the next problem. I have to get up here. To make this much easier, I picked up some mushrooms, as I thought if I cooked them for the speed boost, they would help me jump further. My first attempt to climb this was by stacking up rocks and using a shield jump to reach the top, but that didn't feel like it would work, so I found another solution. By executing 2 jump attacks, I was able to scale this wall, and then I got greeted by another issue. and the same trick wouldn't work twice, so I decided to pull out my last wing to aid me in making this jump. It took a few tries to get the wing in the right position, but I just barely got in the right location, and with a shield jump, I reached the top and I entered the shrine. In the shrine, we gain the Ultra Hand ability, and this alone would make this entire run much easier. I now cross a dysfunctional bridge and then take a ride down to end the shrine. Now we are given a choice to head to 2 different shrines. At first, I scaled this wall and tried to reach the top of the snow area, but I eventually just found a mountain that I didn't think I could scale, so I took a ride the other way, and I had much better luck going in that direction. The road to the shrine is pretty unnoteworthy, and to cross the water, I just constructed a boat. With a small jump, I reached the next shrine. This shrine is completely unchanged by this challenge run, and I easily beat it. Okay, so the road to the next shrine is pretty straightforward, and to not keep this video too long, all you need to know is that I can jump in the minecarts, and in order to scale this wall, I place 2 fans on this platform and I ride it up. I now traverse this cave and steadily make my way up the mountain. Unfortunately, when I reached the top, I couldn't think of a way to scale this mountain to reach this shrine, so I ran all the way back to the platform and I flew all the way over there. After completing the Ascend tutorial, I get directed to head back to the Temple of Time. So after taking a risky boat ride, we end up back outside the Temple of Time. You can use Ascend to quickly make it up the Temple of Time, but I didn't realize this, so I just constructed a bridge and made my way up. I now examine the Tear of the Kingdom and try to open this door. Again, I get redirected and have to head to this area, and after climbing up, we reach the shrine. Surprisingly, this one's a little tougher than the others, because I can't fall in the water. It's still not too hard though, I just have to time a careful jump attack, and the rest of the shrine is pretty simple. I now ascend back to the Temple of Time, climb up and open the door. I then watch a cutscene, do a Mario-inspired platform level, and then send the Master Sword back in time. Now the clouds clear away, and we can finally escape the tutorial area, but first, we have to reach the ground, and in order to do this, I have to land on a lily pad and then jump out to get out of the water. From here, I can pretty much go anywhere, even straight to Ganondorf, but my plan is to at least try to complete all of the dungeons, so I begin to explore. I find this big hole that I've realized I can't go down, and then I just follow where the story wants me to go. On my way to Hyrule Castle, I find the combat training shrine that I can't do because they force you to use a charged attack. I continue to watch a few cutscenes, and I get the paraglider that I can't use. And then I get launched into the air by the tower. You may think I'm going to die, but the game actually lets you save here, so by saving and reloading, I can safely reach the ground without dying. Now I'm directed to head towards any of the 4 major quest lines, and I decide to head towards the Rito quest line. My journey includes me making an ineffective car, me being really stubborn, me finding a bunch of spooky hands, I die to the hands, I take an ineffective route towards the village. Here I realize that most of the storylines are on top of giant mountains that are frustrating to navigate, and me finally seeing the village after surfing down this hill. Unfortunately, accessing the village wasn't going to be simple as there was no bridge, so I had to construct my own with nearby trees. After arriving at the village, I find a shrine that I can't do, and then I get told to go to this cave. I have a problem here, however. I need to go up, and with my current tools, I can't do that. I did find a solution of riding a wing up to send me to the top, but I couldn't progress in the next room, so I just went to the Goron City. And on my way, I do a shrine where I figure out about the extremely overpowered combo of grab and rewind, which trivializes most puzzles in the game. I now start the Goron questline, and on my way to the objective, I trivialize another shrine. The Unova fight isn't really harder in this run, and with him taken down, I catch a ride in some minecarts and climb up the volcano. At the top of the volcano, we fight an extremely underwhelming boss fight where, despite looking quite intimidating, they each die to a single attack, and they don't really put up much of a fight. We now watch a cutscene and get instructed to head to the bottom of the volcano, a task that would be trivial on a regular playthrough, but in this run is quite a tedious endeavor. At this point in the game, the only way I could safely move down was on top of a wing. So I spend 2 hours trying to balance myself on top of a wing to get to the bottom of the volcano. This may sound easy, but trust me, it's a lot harder than it seems. Near the bottom, I had to take a break as I wasn't getting past this area safely without stopping, or I would just crash and die. A funny thing is this whole process would have been much easier if I just waited until I unlocked the hot air balloon. Anyway, after reaching the bottom, I get instructed to go to the fire temple, and because I cannot see, I just constructed a flying machine and I flew over there. It didn't make it all the way there, but by being careful, I could make my way to the fire temple without any trouble. Now you may be asking asking, how hard is the Fire Temple without stamina? It's not that bad. The minecart gimmick is quite favorable for this challenge, and the only problem is climbing in the cart. But at this point, I know my way around and I can do it quite quickly. I now snipe the big rock and shield drum to reach the next area, where I undo the first lock. After doing some minor minecart puzzles, I walk across the lava with these platforms, and then I undo the second lock. Then I reach the third floor and use a rocket to reach the next area. With a well-timed shield jump, I climb on this block and I use rewind to reach the top, and I undo another lock. After a short amount of simple platforming and a well-placed ramp, I undo the next lock. To reach the final lock, I had to carefully drop down and catch a ride on a wing. I now think I'm about to die, but miraculously I managed to survive. I now undo the final lock and make my way to the boss. Gohma wasn't really that hard, I just had to be careful when I climbed up to hit him. As on my first try, I accidentally climbed when I was trying to attack him. Another problem is my weapons are quite lackluster, making this battle last quite a long time. Gohma's second phase was fortunately even easier. I just figured out the timing that allowed me to stun lock him, and when the boss can't attack you, they're pretty easy. I now collect a heart container, watch a cutscene that surely won't be repeated multiple times in the future, and obtain the Vow of Unova. Now I decide I want to go do the Wind Temple. But in order to climb that cave from before, I needed a hot air balloon. So I found this hot air balloon and I rode it up to this island. On that island, there was one of these Gachapon things that can drop hot air balloons. So I pretty much had an infinite supply of them now. I now went back to the cave and took a hot air balloon to reach the top. At the top, I get told I need to head to another mountain. So after climbing out of the cave, I begin to scale the mountain. At the top, I talk to Tulin and they tell me to fly over there. Since I can't glide over there as intended, and I use Tulin's gust to carry some momentum, and I easily land the jump. And I clear out the enemies and get told I need to climb a bigger mountain. Fortunately, with a nearby hot air balloon, the climb was pretty easy, but at the top we have to play another Mario platformer level. I ride a wing with a fan across the first platform, and then I use a hot air balloon to ascend up, and then on that platform I use actual ascend to gain even more height. With a shrine now in sight, I head towards it, but unfortunately we are introduced to a gimmick we can't make full use of, because we can't glide. I even tried to boost a wing, but it doesn't really work, so I built a contraption that would be a staple of this run, of a wing with a fan on the back and a hot air balloon on the middle. I now rode this up to the shrine. Pretty much from here to the next shrine, I just ride a flying machine to skip it all. But just before the shrine, I see an opportunity to jump across these boats. Unfortunately, in order to land, I have to eat a bit of fall damage, but I managed to reach the next shrine. I now go pick up some more cold resistant armor, and I make my way towards the next area by flying machine. At this point, I try to do the intended method of riding the boat, but I just die of fall damage. So I make another flying machine and continue to progress, until eventually I come across these 3 layers of boats, and I couldn't do it the intended way, as they were just too far apart, so I had to fly a flying machine up there. But I wasn't really going high enough, so I had to come up with a plan. By making a flying machine with 2 hot air balloons, I could effectively steer it by using a torch on the opposite side of where I wanted to steer it. Then, with my improved steering, I would land on the 3rd boat, then when it's below the final platform, I would ascend and jump to reach the top. From here, I just make another flying machine and ride it down to the Wind Temple. To start the dungeon, I open this door and open the first lock. I then use Ascend to climb up, and I construct a flying machine to reach these doors. What was hiding behind these doors was a little intimidating. It was a big drop, and there was a wind current pushing up, so a wing wouldn't be able to carry me down. Fortunately, I actually found a new method to drop down. See, if you drop and slightly tap up, Link will grab the wall and fall slightly, and it won't consume stamina. With this, I make my way down, but I get caught by the red beam thing and it blocks the way to the next lock. My solution for this was to just save and reload, and then the second lock was unlocked. I now didn't really know where I was meant to go, but I found this small entrance near the bottom of the boat that I tried to fly into, but I didn't succeed. While doing this, I actually found another entrance that was much easier to access. After some exploring, I found my way towards the next area, and I quickly discover a lock. And shortly after that, I find another lock. I now check my map and find that the final lock was just on the other side of the boat. So after dropping down and doing some exploring, I uncover the final lock. With all locks unlocked, it was time to challenge the boss, Cold Gera. This boss was actually the hardest one for this challenge, as the game pretty much expects you to permanently use the paraglider, and this fight starts you skydiving. At this time, I couldn't think of a way to survive, so I just used the fast travel to safely reach the boat. But from here, I had a problem. I couldn't hit Cold Gera. They were just too far away, so I just end up dying. But I respawned up high on this platform in the sky. From here I could shoot down and actually hit Cold Gera. I even had cover against their only attack. I now easily beat their first phase, but when phase 2 triggers, Link is skydiving again. and I couldn't think of a way to survive, so I just die. On my next try, I try catching a ride on the wing, but I fail. I now find a solution to the fall damage, but I forget that using a bow would enter bullet time and I fail my challenge. So now I just fall out of the temple, and I respawn on the ground. Cold Garrett was still too far away, and my arrows couldn't fly far enough to hit them. Additionally, without the ability to sprint, Cold Garrett's tornadoes were very difficult to avoid, especially while keeping up a solid offense. So I decided to go cook some food and find a longer range bow. Unfortunately, the bow I find wasn't up to the task, as it couldn't fire arrows at a long range quickly, and it made it hard to hit Cold Garrett before they heal up. So I now journey to the top of Hyrule Castle to pick up another long range bow. With this bow, I could finally execute my plan. I easily beat the first phase, then I would be able to land on this boat to fly into the air and land up here with the two doors. I think this area made it easier to hit Cold Garrett, but I might be wrong. From here, I would use Keith's Eyes to add homing property to my arrows, and when Cold Garrett attacks with tornadoes, I would have an opportunity to attack. This plan was pretty effective, and my ample amount of healing items kept me healthy. With a few good shots of my bow, I was steadily whittling down Cold Garrett's HP, and with one final satisfying shot, I defeat them. Now I just collect the heart container, watch a cutscene I have already watched before, and set my sights on the water temple. I now clear up a statue and get told to go up this mountain. With a few uses of Ascend, this was pretty easy, and now I get told to go over here. I then solve this puzzle and get told about another puzzle, which the solution is just go in this cave. Next I make a flying machine to reach this island to solve another puzzle. Now I talk to Sidon and kill the light fight. Speaking of that, like, comment, subscribe, After arriving near the beam of light, I build a boat and go talk to Sidon. He tells us to go down this whirlpool. Fortunately, if we don't move, we don't actually consume stamina and water. In the newly discovered cave, I break a stone to unleash a huge amount of water. I now try to save and reload to go to solid ground, but this doesn't work, and I have to teleport away and run all the way back. The next room was pretty simple. I just construct a bridge to climb up to the center of the room. Then we figure out that we have to scale this waterfall, and when I get just the right jump and climb it, the game forces me to pull out the glider. I even tried preemptively putting away the Zora armor, but this doesn't help. As you might expect, I just build a flying machine with nearby components, and with some Zonai charges, I could make it up without my hot air balloon running out. Yeah, we now have another Mario platform section that I just fly over. I find this box man and kill him, and from here I just use a hot air balloon to reach the area just before the temple. The waterfall just before the temple can't be scaled the intended way, so again, I just use a hot air balloon to fly up. Now we enter the water temple, and this one is pretty bad. Not from a difficulty perspective, but mainly from a fun perspective. This one's just pretty boring. I go over here and I find this ball. Because I don't really know what I'm meant to do, I just build a flying machine and pick up one of these floating platforms, and I use it to move the ball up. I then just fly up again with the flying machine and solve an easy puzzle to undo the first lock. Now I fly all the way over here and get slightly confused with a puzzle that I think wants me to use bullet time, but by just spamming arrows at the switch, I eventually succeed and undo another lock. This electric puzzle was another easy one, and then there was just one more lock left. To find it, I just had to drop down, and the puzzle was again pretty boring. Now it's time for the boss. Again, this boss is pretty unnoteworthy. While lacking the ability to run makes it slightly annoying, they don't really cause me any problems, and I'm at no risk of consuming stamina, so it's an easy win. With another heart container obtained, we watch this cutscene again, and I now do a little of the Impa quest that acquaints me with using cooking pots across large distances. This unlocks the tears, but with how slow I move, I decide to hold off on doing this, and I now cross the desert to begin the Gerudo questline. Is what I would like to say I did, but I get sidetracked and throw a bunch of eyes down a hole, and all I get is a pretty mediocre reward. Anyway, I now do the Riju archery tutorial, easily clear up the Gyptos, and chase away even more Gyptos. We now get instructed to do a light puzzle that I do in the wrong order. After a short jog across the desert, I watch a cutscene and fight Queen Gypto. This is over pretty quick. I just have to hit 2 shots and she retreats into the temple. With some rewinds and good old brute force, I reach the main chamber and get slightly confused as Riju is lagging behind slightly and the temple won't activate. To begin the temple, I quickly shoot one of these locks, and then I use a hot air balloon to scale to the top. Next, I move a platform to redirect the light to open a way to this fiery pit. I try to safely drop down, but I get hit and fall. Somehow I actually survive this fall, and then I activate the lock, With good use of the Ultra Hand and Rewind, I reach the next major area. It's pretty simple, but I almost get stuck in this hole. Fortunately, the mirrors also double as an elevator, and I manage to escape. Then I undo another lock, and get in position to cheese another puzzle with a well-placed Ultra Hand. The road to the final lock was easy. I just fly up, and then the dungeon was pretty much done. But I wanted to go pick up the Master Sword, which at the time I didn't know I couldn't get, but after entering the depths and running away from this hand guy, I managed to climb up and uncover the problem with the Deku Tree. This hand thing. I beat it, but then suddenly Phantom Ganon appears. After a tough fight thanks to Gloom, I managed to win, and I get told the Master Sword is on top of this dragon. I'm a little unsure if I can reach it, but I line up and try to land on the dragon, as it was quite near to this tower. Then I would land and learn that you don't actually take full damage on dragons. I wonder if this will be useful in the future. Anyway, I try to draw the Master Sword, but I can't without using stamina, so I return to fight Queen Gibda. She isn't too different compared to a regular playthrough. The only problem is her laser attack is kind of hard to avoid without sprinting, and her tornadoes make it hard for me to stay close to her. A strategy that I employ is that I use Sidon to allow me to eat a tornado so that Riju could safely charge up, allowing me to knock the boss down. Other than that, it's not really anything noteworthy. I beat her, collect the heart container, and watch the stupid cutscene for the 4th time. Now we're directed to head to Hyrule Castle, but first we complete this silly tier quest, and we see Ganon make a funny face. Anyway, in Hyrule Castle, we chase down Zelda until her true identity is revealed, as 5 Phantom Ganons. This fight looks intimidating, but the Ganons aren't really that aggressive, and I easily tear through each of them. The second phase was a little tougher, as the new attack they gain that accumulates Gloom is annoying, because if I leave them for too long, my HP will really dip low, so I have to be quick on the draw and punish the Ganons when they execute this attack. With careful positioning, I keep an eye on all of the Ganons, and I eventually succeed. We now watch a cutscene and get told to find the Ring Ruins. Naturally, I had no clue where this was, but after a quick Google search, I found out that I should go to Kakariko Village. Yeah, and here I figure out I need the camera, so after a trip to the depths, I can finally progress the story. Now we head to an area where we must gather 3 pieces of armor, and then place down a Zonai charge to unlock the island in the sky. How do we get there? I think you should know how by this point. Yeah, the flying island is easy to navigate with a flying machine, and the only problem I face is going a bit too high and missing the island I'm meant to land on. Let's not talk about how I died on this door, and with that done, I fly this mask down to the depths. After getting told to find 4 parts, I make my way to find them, which involves me falling down a hole and me getting confused. Anyway, the first I go for is a leg, and I just fly out and deliver the parts. Next I find another leg, and I didn't really know how to solve this puzzle. Fortunately, the old reliable solution of just fly over it succeeds, and I deliver the second leg. Now I begin collecting the arms, and again, no clue on how they want me to solve this. I just flew over it. With the penultimate part delivered, I go towards another puzzle that I just fly over. After delivering the final part, I journey to the Spirit Temple. That is really just the Spirit Temple in name alone, as it's literally just a boss fight. I do this fight the intended way, which doesn't play differently at all to a normal playthrough. Now with the Spirit Temple done, the only thing left to do was to defeat Ganondorf. I drop down with Mineru, as you don't take full damage while on her. I then place a rocket on her back to allow me to rush through until I've reached the Lynel. I defeat them for that powerful bow. It was a pretty easy fight. Next, I set out for an ascend to skip a room, and then I defeat the like, comment, subscribe. Now we lose our sages, but they don't really do much anyway. Ascending in this room wasn't hard, and the enemies were actually a little annoying due to my inability to sprint. Next, I constructed a flying machine to cross this gap. Now the rooms were starting to look familiar. So after smashing my way through this wall, I progressed to where we see Ganondorf at the start of the game. And this drop was a little harder to do than I expected, but with the help of a hot air balloon, I eventually made my way to the bottom. From here, I was pretty much at the final drop. I make a platform and I descend to the final few bosses. The Demon King's army isn't really all that hard. As long as I run away from them, my powerful Lynel bow can make quick work of them. The next wave was a little annoying as I had to avoid a few ranged attacks, but again, it wasn't that bad. The wave of Gyptos was surprisingly hard as when they start to crawl on the ground, they move really quick, and they actually managed to damage me. The Bokoblins were really slow and I destroyed them with my bow's high damage. Now, finally, we just head to face Ganondorf. His first phase wasn't too hard, I just have to time my dodges to get damage with flurry rushes. I had a slight problem with this attack where he smashes his club down, as they expect you to dodge this by pulling out the paraglider. At first I thought this was just force damage and I couldn't avoid the attack, but actually if you're close enough you can time a dodge to survive. I take out his first phase and his next phase wasn't that much harder. He was just a little faster. I even managed to dodge the hammer smash. Moving on to his final phase, I'm starting to get a little nervous. I'm about to win, and I start to choke. I get hit, and I get hit by a few attacks that don't really matter. I hit him with a flurry rush, one more, and I'll be able to end it. I keep making mistakes, and I lose my final shield. I see an opportunity to attack, but it wasn't enough. He now quickly slashes me, dropping me to my final heart. Ganondorf triggers a flurry rush while I prepare for the attack. I manage to dodge and land my own flurry rush. It lands and I finish him off. Now he turns into a dragon, and Link draws the Master Sword, unlocking the final memory, making me reach the requirements for the true ending. Anyway, we now start this fight. And I'm kinda scared the game will force me to use the paraglider, but if you remember from earlier, you can safely land on dragons without taking full damage, so I can safely land on him. The Master Sword makes quick work of his weak spots, and Zelda saves me from falling to my death. Yeah, this fight is pretty easy from here. I just drop down and defeat his weak spots. With that done, it's time to end it. I maneuver mid-air to land just by his stone, and Link lands the final blow. We do a small skydiving segment that we don't have to use stamina for, and we beat the game without using stamina. This run was really fun. At the start, it felt incredibly satisfying to figure out each solution to the problems that I was facing. Even during the mid part of the run, I found the Cold Gera fight to be really fun to figure out, and I was super happy that I managed to beat the game and get the true ending while doing this challenge. If you enjoyed, I would really appreciate if you liked and subscribed, and bye.